Sorry to Bother You writer and director Boots Riley openly calls himself a communist. Decades of activism and descending from an activist family, Boots has always used his art as a tool for social and political commentary. While many know him primarily as a frontman of the radical hip-hop group The Coup, filmmaking was always the plan. Boots went to film school, and Sorry to Bother You is the culmination of his vision, a surreal, dark, comedic masterpiece that blends his decades-long political insight with storytelling. What's fascinating about this film is that it was written around 10 years before it actually debuted. When it premiered in 2018, during Donald Trump's first presidential run, Boots made almost no changes to the script. Everything he had written a decade earlier still applied, maybe even more so. The only adjustment he claims to have made was to a line where one of the characters said that WorryFree, the film's sinister conglomerate, was going to make America great again. Riley felt that keeping it in would be too on the nose, a testament to how disturbingly accurate and relevant his script was. Sorry to Bother You isn't just a film, it's a reflection of the world that we're living in. On the surface, it's a dark comedy about Cassius Green, a telemarketer who discovers the secret to success by using his white voice when calling customers. But if you dig a little bit deeper, you'll find a scathing indictment of corporate greed, worker exploitation, and the ways we're all complicit in upholding the systems that dehumanize us. The film's most outlandish moments, like workers literally being transformed into half-human, half-horse hybrids, feels eerily familiar in a world where, for example, gig economy workers are treated as disposable beasts of burden, where corporations prioritize extreme profits beyond what is reasonable over people, and where racial and economic inequality are baked into the system. What makes Sorry to Bother You so good is how it uses absurdity to reflect reality. And the wicked part is that all the crazy shit that happens in the film actually does happen in real life. The film doesn't just critique the capitalist system, which, if you ask me, what we're living in isn't even capitalism. It's something else. The film holds up a mirror to society, and the reflection is very unsettling. From Cassius's existential dread about the meaning of work to Detroit's unapologetic resistance to systemic oppression, every moment in the film is layered with meaning. From the gig economy to corporate surveillance, from the commodification of art to the fight for workers' rights, Sorry to Bother You isn't just a cautionary tale, it's a call to action. So the film begins with Cassius Green at an interview trying to get a new job. In this interview, it turns out that he's been lying on his resume, and not long into this interview, the boss informs him that he knows that he's lying. In this interview, Cash is doing the most. He brought like some plaque or award to try and show the manager that he's like supposedly super well loved at his other job. But things get interesting when the boss pretty much tells him that I don't give a fuck if you lied. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to work in a call center. The fact that he even lied on his resume actually made him appeal more to the boss, which just goes to show you that this idea that they try to tell you that you're supposed to do the right thing and work up the corporate ladder, it doesn't really benefit people. Actually, being very self-interested and lying, cheating, and stealing to get ahead is actually what does actually get you ahead in this country. So Cassius gets hired for the job, and the boss pretty much tells him, look, you'll do well here so long as you stick to the script. So the next morning, Cassius wakes up in bed and he immediately starts having an existential crisis about working and jobs and the meaning of life and all kinds of things. And I personally definitely really relate to this scene because I know in my moment, my Cassius Green moments when I've been struggling with money, you really start to question, what is the point of all this? What is the meaning of life? I am so stressed. I am suicidal. It's all because of this piece of paper called money is literally making me want to off myself from the universe. And so sleeping next to him is his girlfriend, Detroit, who doesn't seem to have such a nihilistic outlook on the world as he does. She basically just tells him to calm down. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not a big fan of how Detroit is written, and I'm gonna critique it every single time I see it. She is your typical manic pixie dream girl type, the mixed race girlfriend, the ultra horny girlfriend, the ride or die to Cassius's dusty, unemployed, garage living self. Okay, that's literally what it is. I do feel like her character is written just a little bit too easy. The same way people like to talk about the Asian sidekick and the magical Negro, the mixed race, manic pixie, dream girl, ultra horny girlfriend trope needs to be examined as well, okay? As they're starting to wake up, ultra horny Detroit hops on Cassius, ready to do whatever, and the garage opens up to reveal that he's living in his uncle's garage, and everyone in the street can see her starting to take her clothes off. They bring down the garage door. Cash turns on the television and sees a commercial for a company called WorryFree, which offers people the opportunity to live where they work, be provided food, housing, and other amenities and activities. It's obvious pretty quickly that WorryFree is some kind of satirical interpretation of Amazon or Apple or Google, these companies that like to create this idea of a work culture where you are a family and you basically live at work, you stay there, you hang out there, you eat there. WorryFree is a manifestation of a company town. Company towns are communities where nearly all aspects of life, housing, employment, goods, and services are controlled by a single corporation. Historically, these towns were often built around industries like mining, logging, or manufacturing, where companies provided housing and basic amenities to workers in remote areas. While they offered stability, they also created environments ripe for exploitation, as workers became entirely dependent on their employers for survival. Imagine trying to call out of work because you don't feel well or you just need a mental day, but you live at your job. In recent years, the concept of company towns has resurfaced, with tech billionaires like Elon Musk, who is developing a company town right now called Snailbrook in Bastrop County, Texas. The town is designed to be a utopian work-live community for employees of Musk's companies, including SpaceX, Tesla, and the Boring Company. Snailbrook is part of Musk's broader vision to create self-sustaining ecosystems where employees can live, work, and access amenities without leaving the corporate bubble. Snailbrook already offers a range of amenities, including a pool, playground, and schooling, which focuses on STEM education for children 3 to 9. Musk plans to expand this into a series of kindergarten through 12th grade schools and even a university in Texas. Anyone can see that this modern iteration of company towns could exacerbate issues like worker dependency, lack of autonomy, and corporate overreach, echoing the dystopian vision of WorryFree and Sorry to Bother You. On his way to work, Cash passes a sign that says, "WorryFree. If you lived here, you'd be at work already," which is a play on those signs that say, if you lived here, you would be home. As Cash is driving to work, he passes all the homeless people on the street. He passes Skid Row. It just basically shows how the city is just declining in disarray. There's more and more homeless people, as we can see with many cities all over the country right now. As more people become homeless, more people live in their cars, are priced out of apartments, mortgages, foreclosures, all of that stuff. So Cash gets to his first day on the job and he meets his slimy manager, who seems like he might have just gotten out of prison a couple months ago. He's got tattoos over his face. He's got a suit that's just way too big, a loose tie that's hanging down. I feel like you guys know exactly what type of person that I'm talking about. As Cash is starting to get into his groove of his first day, he's calling various people and tries to connect with his customers, but he doesn't seem to be getting very far. With every phone call, Cash crashes into the homes of potential customers, and the director uses as a way to show how it really feels like you're intruding on people when you call them and you're basically asking them for money. Enter Langston, played by Danny Glover, who tells Cassius that he needs to tap into his white voice. And this white voice is a voice that is carefree. It's never struggled. It's never been fired. He claims that this white voice is a voice that white people wish they sounded like. When discussing this idea of the white voice, Boots Riley said that he believed that even white people, when they have this, hello there, how are ya? Yeah, it's so nice to talk to you, Tim. We heard that you've had this magazine here for a while, and we wanted to know if you wanted to update your subscription to a 36-month subscription. He claims that that voice is a performance, and that even white people don't normally sound like that. They are also performing in this way to sound carefree, like they've never struggled, like they've never been fired, like they're excited to talk to you. And so the only way for Cash to move ahead and to get leeway with these customers is that he needs to sound like he has never had a problem in his life. He doesn't even really need them to purchase a subscription. He's trying to help them out. I'm trying to help you out. So later on that day, the entire office has a meeting, and it really just reminds you of that fake corporate cubicle experience that people have at work. I complain so much about my job and how inconsistent it is, but I feel like there is a part of me that is so grateful that I never had to have that corporate America experience. I never had to have the cubicle experience. Office politics, something like that would really suck the last bits of hope and positivity for humanity and life that was in me. I really feel like I'm just not built for that kind of work environment. So at the meeting, they introduce a new manager who's named Diana Debauchery or some shit like that. And she's exactly the type of manager that you want to stay away from and that you hope completely forgets your existence. Like I said, the same person that says, we're a family, but also is always breathing down your neck, always watching you, always being like, Jim, we do need to talk about your deliverables this month. I don't know what the corporate lingo is, like the type of white lady that really strikes the fear into your spine. You know what I mean? So after the meeting, Cash goes to get some coffee out of the vending machine, and there he meets Squeeze, played by Steven Yeun. Squeeze stealthily tells Cash he wants him to join his small group of people who appear to be wanting to flip their workplace and unionize. And he's actually speaking to him in code, which illustrates the fact that people, when they are at their jobs and they're trying to unionize and they're trying to talk about better working conditions, they always have to be very cautious of who they talk to, who they think will actually be down with the cause and doesn't expose them before they are able to actually try and unionize the workplace. After work, Cash goes and picks up Detroit, who is standing on a corner doing like a sign dancing, just swinging a sign around for a business. Again, showing another beast of burden type job. Like, this film has a lot of beasts of burden type jobs. And if you don't know what a beast of burden is, it is an animal such as a mule or donkey that is used for carrying loads. So Cash goes and picks up Detroit, and she's riding with him and his co-workers. And he begins to have another existential crisis about talking about his classmates and how they haven't progressed in life. And he feels like he's at the same place with them, but Detroit is able to bring him back down to reality. She's like, dude, come on. Like, you can't keep doing this. And I feel like, again, this just goes to show how when you're broke, when you're poor, when you're at the bottom of society, you're constantly thinking about why. You don't have the distractions of going out to dinner every week. You're not going to the movies all the time. Even if you're trying to rest, you're thinking about, oh, damn, I still owe money to these people. Oh, they're going to cut off my electricity. They're going to cut off my cable. There's really no time to rest. So the group arrive at a bar, and WorryFree is on the news for a series of violent protests where workers are alleging that there are slave conditions. On the news, the WorryFree CEO, Steve Lift, reminds me of a combination between Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. Steve Jobs, Steve Lift, Bill Gates. He is your typical scarf wearing, Birkenstock wearing, linen two-piece, San Francisco vibes, your literal Silicon Valley mafia type. Guys just have some really sick views for the future. Real narcissistic, real sociopathic type shit, okay? As Cash and friends are sitting around the table, Cash cheers his friends and puts on his white voice, which seems to hypnotize everyone. It really disturbs them how really good he is at it. During the same time, Squeeze hands out pamphlets to them about unionizing, and Cash seems like he is somewhat interested. So the next day, Cash heads to work in the morning, and he runs into his uncle, who tells him that he's about to lose the house. As he's talking about how he's going to lose his house, the uncle, who is played by Terry Crews, lets him know that he's considering going to WorryFree. He gets a message from WorryFree offering him to come and join. How the fuck did WorryFree know that your house is about to be foreclosed upon? This is exactly what they talk about surveillance, and there's no freaking way that his information probably wasn't sold to WorryFree so that WorryFree could reach out to him and let him know, oh, you're about to be desperate, oh, you're about to lose your house, why don't you come and work and live at WorryFree? The uncle says that he's open to it. Knowing this information, Detroit and Cash are both like, oh my god, there's no way, no, you can't do that. He doesn't really have much options at this point. And so this basically puts a fire under Cash that he has to really go out there and get it. And I also want to call attention to Detroit's shirt during this scene. The future is female ejaculation. Perfection. So perform he does. He starts making a ton of sales to the point where they're starting to talk about him going to the upper floor. Cash is doing so well at this job that Detroit even also begins working at Regal View. Later on, the guys all go out and they're at a bar and they're watching this popular stupid show where people get their asses beat on television. And the whole country loves it. They're apparently watching, hundreds of millions of people are watching this show whenever it comes on every week, okay? So while in there, Cash eyes a newspaper that says that the Senate clears WorryFree of the slavery allegations, which of course they do. If you have money, you can do anything you want. These companies, we all know, get away with abusing their workers, not paying fair, not letting them go to the bathroom, not getting them days off. And it's nothing for these companies to pay off these judges or senators or whoever, pay them $1 or $2 million in order to save them millions and millions and millions of dollars at the end of the year. So afterwards, they go outside the bar and they're hanging out, and Detroit pops up. And she talks about how she wished that Cash was going to come back to her gallery to see her. There's some confusion about it. And she tells him that, baby, don't listen to what I say. Listen to what I want. And again, ultra horny, kissing on him. Like just the whole movie, she's just like, yes, baby. And as the camera zooms out, it shows us a billboard that says, show the world you're responsible baby daddy and sign up for WorryFree. And it basically shows a black man sitting on the couch with a 40 and a cigarette in his mouth and a weapon in his hand. It just goes to show how these companies literally go after people who they know are desperate, people who really need to change their situation. So the next day, as Cash is on his way to work, the camera passes by a man who is brushing his teeth outside the window of his car, seemingly like he's living in his car. Squeeze is having a meeting outside so that they can begin unionizing. And Cash, he seems to be a bit uncomfortable with it. Squeeze gives a speech that aligns so much with the conversations that we're having today. From the script, yes, fuck that. We write for anybody they try to fire. We fight because we create the profits and they don't share. If we're going to give them our day, they need to give us enough money to cover necessities. Human decency. Is anybody not down? Speak now. So as they're going inside to start their day, Cash passes by the gold elevator, and you can see that he really wants to get there. Later on that day, the office puts their phones down and everyone decides that they're going to strike. And this really upsets the manager because he realizes that, oh shit, they're about to try and unionize. The timing is always impeccable, right? Just as Cash, their best caller, starts to revolt, they decide to promote him to turn him against the other workers. They give Cash a taste of the good life. They bring him into the office, they give him some champagne. So it's really fascinating. As soon as Cash gets the promotion, his white female manager starts flirting with him immediately. She's touching him. She wears a corset to meet him. She's just like, oh, you're so handsome. It's so funny because that really is such a call to, some things about this phenomenon that does happen with black men as they move up in ranks. I mean, we see it all the time with rappers. We see it with athletes. When they had nothing, nobody wanted them. But now all of a sudden they're making some money and like the white girl's just coming out of nowhere. So when he rides to the top floor, he meets a man named Mister, who was played by Amari Hardwick. And Mister informs him that while he's up here, he has to use his white voice the entire time. While up there, he starts to learn about what Regal View actually is and who their main client is. And he finds out that it is WorryFree, who again is an Amazon, Google, Apple, slave labor in the Southeast Asia like figure, and that this company has their hands in literally everything. I mean, they're making bombs to cars, plastic products, anything, and they supply the labor for it. So Mister explains to Cash the WorryFree work model: lifetime contracts, so no wages needed. They can make a car for the price they used to make bicycles with. So Cash seems like he's having a bit of a moral dilemma, but when Mister shows him the salary that he could be making, even with a bomb going off in the background, Cash has no problem at this point ignoring his morals. You know, as much as we want to judge him in this moment, we can't do so too much, because remember, in the previous scene, he and the rest of his family have the potential to be homeless. So it does put you in this precarious position when you want to revolt and you want to strike and stuff like that, but you literally have bills. You literally have to eat. It's literally survival. And they know that. The powers that be know that. So across town, Detroit is sign dancing again when Squeeze pulls up. From the beginning, there seemed to be some kind of flirtation between Squeeze and Detroit. She does seem to be very attracted to Squeeze's ability to lead and to want to fight the power, especially recently with things like Super Mario and Luigi situation. And we watch how a lot of women reacted to that, literally turned them on when a man was fighting the power. He showed it in this movie that a lot of women are attracted to these leadership type men. You know, one of the rumors about Martin Luther King, for example, is that he had a lot of women. That leadership shit is just a turn on. You can look at anyone, Bill Clinton, you know, any of these people, politicians, whatever. It's attractive to watch someone fight especially the fight on the other side, fighting the system. Very sexy. Squeeze and Detroit he meets her and he takes her sign from her and he twirls it and he lets her know that he was one of the founders or something like that for a sign twirlers union. I think is a way of like Boots Riley showing that activism can be sexy and leadership can be sexy. Them connecting in this moment leads Squeeze to ask Detroit like why she's even with Cash, because she seems like a radical while Cash doesn't seem so. I think this puts a little bit of a bud in Detroit's head. The next day, Cash heads to work in a nicer suit, and he almost talks down to the protesting workers when he gets to Regal View. He lets them know that he's going to be protesting from the bench where he's getting paid. And like it almost pisses him off. And I feel like this is very interesting because this was something that was definitely going down during the strikes in 2023. The Writers Guild of America and the Screen Actors Guild strike, because although a lot of people might support their struggle, there were a lot of production people who were like, you guys are still on strike. We don't have work. We're literally losing our house. We're losing all these things. Even looking back at it now, like that strike didn't benefit me. No way. If you're not in the union, then you're F. It definitely shows the struggle between union workers and non-union people, and like you're gonna shut down our whole business and we need to work and we need money and we need these things and you're doing this and you're being selfish. And I understand both sides, but I do personally just feel like collective action is like, it's like the only way to actually change things. But yeah, it's just a difficult situation that many Americans find themselves in. You want to protest, but you literally have to eat. It's a delicate balance that the oligarchy and the overlord powers keep us in. They keep you where you have just enough money that you can survive, but you have very little money so that you're constantly in a struggle. You're constantly scraping. You're always working towards something. You never have a surplus. And then if you do have a surplus, something happens that brings it back down. You're always like treading water through life. So Cash is assigned a WorryFree campaign by Mister, and Cash begins making calls to potential clients, and again he appears in their living rooms. But this time, things are just a little bit better. And it really just shows the false sense of closeness that salesmen elicit to make you buy their stuff. Cash is finally able to pay for his uncle's house. He's able to get a new car. He buys a Maserati. He goes and he picks up Detroit And there's basically just a montage that shows how his life improves. Him and her are hooking up in bed, and it shows his room literally breaking apart and melting away the old crusty poverty furniture and knickknacks to reveal newer, updated trinkets. A flat screen TV, a nice lamp, a new bed, white walls, white sheets. And over time, it gets to them waking up in the morning. In their old life, they face each other, but as this new life takes hold, it shows them facing away from each other. So Cash now lives in a beautiful sunlit loft in the middle of town. He was living in the center of downtown, so you know he's paying big money for that. And his windows did not have any curtains on them, and I feel like that was the director's way of showing how he is exposed now. You know, people might be like, oh, let me put up curtains. I don't want people looking at me. I don't want people seeing my stuff. He didn't give a damn. Look at my apartment. See me. I'm walking naked. So what? Look at my nice new TV. Look at my shit. He was absolutely worry-free. So Cash wakes up in the morning and he turns on television. His telemarketing agency, Regal View, is having a massive strike. And on the television, he sees Squeeze with a megaphone saying that we want enough money to pay our rent. We want enough money to not eat cup of noodles every night. We want to be able to see the doctor with what we're making from our job that we're working at full time. Like, why is this such a concept? On the other side of the bed, Detroit wakes up and Cash accidentally talks to her in his white voice, and she is immediately turned off. He like, oh shit, like he doesn't even realize that that's exactly what he was doing. And that just goes to show how people, when you start to participate in this, the person who you thought you were starts to slowly disappear and you may not even realize it. So it turns out that Detroit quit the call center because of Cash's scab-like behavior, him crossing the picket line and stuff like that, and it's very embarrassing. And she tells him that he is selling slave labor, and he feels like he's just doing what everyone else is doing. And he also criticized her that she was enjoying the spoils of his labor and his scabbish behavior for a while. But now it seems like she's starting to really get turned off by this. For her, it's just not enough now. Like, yeah, it was nice to move into this new apartment. Yeah, it was nice to have the nice car. But now it's just kind of like, it just feels dirty, I guess, to her. But she doesn't get let off the hook that easily, because Cash points out that even her, as this kind of like artist, is selling her art to super rich people, that she is also complicit in this system, and that she is putting herself through trial and turmoil in order to create this art that she can sell for, you know, all this money in order to make a way for herself. And I feel like this might be Boots Riley calling himself out. If you make a movie, you have to canoodle with rich people, because a lot of this costs money to make, like especially a movie of this magnitude. Finding 1,000 volunteers to make a movie like this is very, very unlikely. You know what I mean? He does have to, like, you know, partner with a studio, production company, distributor in order to come up with the money up front in order to pay people. Even as an artist, as much as you try and be independent, you still have to sell yourself in some way. So Cash and her are arguing back and forth, and he tells her that he went and got this job because he wanted to be more interesting to her. I don't really understand. You should be wanting to do better for yourself or whatever. But she tells him that she has had enough, and that if he crosses the picket line one more time, they're done. Cut to, he crosses the picket line again, where the protesters are ruthlessly and violently being beaten by the police. And I told y'all on my TikTok a couple weeks ago that if you have friends who are in the police or in the National Guard or in the Army, y'all need to be having conversations about that with them, about where they stand on civil unrest, civil disobedience, people fighting back against a corrupt system. You need to be having conversation with them about what they're gonna do if they're being told to enact violent actions against American citizens, against their neighbors. We need to be having these conversations, because in this movie, and as we're watching play out in real life, they beat the ever-loving shit out of them. So as Cash continues to break the picket line, he's rewarded. Office has a party for him. He's on his knees like this as they're pouring champagne all over him. I don't need to translate the meaning of that to y'all. We're all adults here. And the next day again, he once again breaks the picket line. He's assaulted when someone throws a a can of soda at him resembling a Coke. This goes viral. The rest of the movie, he is dealing with this injury on his head, and Cassius continues to keep doing well at work. He continues to break records, and he finally gets an invite to the big party thrown by Steve Liff, your Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Apple CEO type figure. So before going to this big event by Steve Liff, Cash decides that he's going to stop by Detroit's event. For some strange reason, she's going around and she's talking to people in a British accent. And I feel like this is Boots Riley's way of showing that how we are all performing. Even someone like her who claims to be an activist and a radical and all this stuff, she is going around doing her white voice as a British girl and talking about, yes, my aunt, yes, darling. Okay, I'll be back. I'll talk to you in a second. Thank you so much. She is doing her white voice in order to appear to be more successful, more educated, more interesting. So as her show is about to start, Detroit is letting Cash know that he should stay and watch it. But she, although she loves him, she just cannot rock with him anymore because of his morals. Squeeze shows up and he tells her, I'm so happy to be here. I wouldn't miss it for the world. And she is just, giddy, like, oh, you always know the right things to say. So Detroit's show starts, appears on stage in a trench coat. And she takes off the trench coat to reveal herself nearly next to naked, of course. Just because we fight for racial equality and maybe systemic financial equality, misogyny always just... it just passes by every time. It's like, ooh, oh, equality. They missed the mark with this and this character. She has moments where it's great, and then other times it's just like sex sells. So Detroit begins to start her show, and she says to the crowd, welcome friends, gather around. In those containers there are broken cell phones, used bullet casings, and water balloons filled with sheep's blood. Cell phones can only work with the mineral coltan, which is only found in Africa's Congo. The profit involved in this has created hardship and wars. I will stand here. If you feel so moved, you may throw the items in the containers at me. While I stand here, I will be reciting an excerpt from the timeless Motown-produced movie entitled The Last Dragon. And so as she's standing there in her next to naked outfit, people are throwing all kinds of shit at her. You can see on her face that she's very surprised. Like, I don't think that she thought that these people were going to be pelting her with all this kind of shit. She's really surprised to see the violence that the audience is happy to commit against her. Part of me thinks about, like, damn, why does this need to happen? Like, why does the one woman character in the movie have to be naked, beaten? Maybe Boots Riley is aware that he did this to this character. He felt like it was necessary, but I feel like at this point now, we all know. We all are aware about how women are treated. So are we going to just keep talking about how women are treated? Are we just going to keep showing how women are treated? Are we going to actually just treat women better? Treat female characters better? Question. Message. Detroit tells Cash to leave when he tries to stop everything that's happening to her. She tells him that he needs to go because she wants her viewers to be able to freely express themselves, because this is a part of the art. So Cash leaves Detroit's art show and he heads to Steve Liff's party, which literally opens up with Steve Liff doing a massive amount of that white stuff. So Steve tells Cash that he needs people like him who are snakes or cunning raccoons, which it's obvious what he's trying to insinuate and insert here. Steve Liff tells him that he needs people like him in order to infiltrate the system. Like, of course, yes, we need the slaves, right? We need those workers, but we need overseers, right? Slavery doesn't work without overseers, because Massa can't be in the field watching every day. Massa got to lay down. Massa got to drink lemonade. They need the other people, the overseers, the managers, in order to keep the slaves in line. So back with Detroit, it's the end of her show, and Squeeze is staying there to help her clean up, and she comes to him directly, kissing him, super horny for no reason, but a leader is definitely clearly turning her on. Him standing for something is clearly turning her on. So back at the party, Steve Liff is bragging to everyone who will listen, everyone who's surrounding him, about being in Africa and shooting a rhino while at a safari, where his tour guide died apparently, and he somehow survived. So he shoots it with an AK, and he has this rhino's head displayed on his wall. And so during this little monologue, Steve is being touched by multiple women, and the entire living room of people are all listening to him. Hollywood is very interesting, okay? I'm like, I don't even know how to explain this. Like, when you see this kind of shit in real life, and I have seen it in real life, the alpha in the room, the guy who has the most money in the room, you know, is like, has these women who are just at his feet. They are workers, right? But there's also people in the room who are wannabes, right? Who are, oh, Steve, you know, laughing at his jokes and, you know, trying to be agreeable and all this kind of stuff. Loyalist, if you will. In this monologue, the whole room is listening to him. You imagine people like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Kanye West, Diddy is like the centerpiece, like this kind of vibe, right? So as people are listening to him, Steve insists that Cash must know raps and that he's a gangster because he's from Compton or he's from South Central, whatever. And he pressures him to rap in front of everyone a song. Cash is telling him like, listen, I don't know how to rap. I'm not a rapper. I don't know anything about this. And Steve absolutely insists. Cash has to get in front of everybody. He's like trying to rap and no one is into it. And then eventually he starts to catch a vibe and he starts and I can't even say what he's saying. Let's say he says nugget stuff, right? And so he just gets up there and he starts rapping nugget stuff, nugget stuff, nugget stuff, nugget stuff, nugget stuff, nugget stuff. Everyone in the crowd is like, yeah. And then all the white people in the crowd are saying nugget stuff, nugget stuff, nugget stuff. And they're all rapping along. Like a lot of these rappers, like a lot of their concerts will be, you know, white fans and stuff like that. And they'll be rapping the N-word as loud at their top of their lungs. And of course, as the night starts to progress towards the wee hours in the morning, it descends into an party on some eyes wide shut type of stuff. Mr. approaches Cash and he tells him that Steve is downstairs waiting for him and that he should go and meet Steve. So Cash goes to this secret door, down some stairs, around the corner in order to meet Steve. When he opens the room, Steve throws him a green apple. It almost is like a moment of, if you take a bite of this apple, just know, after the Lord told you not to, just know you're about to open Pandora's box for what's about to happen. Steve ends up offering him a line of that white stuff. Cash takes it and it just so happens to be on an ashtray that looks like a horse. So after Cash takes this line, Steve tells him that he really needs him at WorryFree. Right before he's about to go into his whole spiel and Steve is about to show him this video that explains everything, Cash tells him, look, I need to go to the bathroom, okay? So Cash leaves and goes to the bathroom. As he's leaving the room, there's a bunch of doors. He doesn't really know where he's going. And he steps into what seems like the bathroom. He's, you know, sees that someone's in the stall when he hears a man asking for help. And the dude's like, come on, man, you gotta help me, bro. You gotta help me. And so Cash opens the stall. There is this huge, disgusting creature that falls out. And it is a man horse creature. And so freaking out, Cash is backing up and he backs into the other stalls and finds that the other stalls are filled with horse people. As he's starting to run, Cash leaves and he runs into Steve, who's like, dude, listen, let me explain everything to you, okay, man? Don't freak out. So Steve brings Cash back into his office and they watch a video. And in the film, it purports that humans have always used tools for improvement in our lives. WorryFree has developed a chemical change to improve humans to be strong, more efficient, more obedient, and therefore more profitable. Humans require too much: wages, food, vacations, health insurance. Who wants to deal with all of that? Like WorryFree, many other American corporations are trying to get human beings out of the equation, and they want to utilize AI to not have to deal with people. Elon Musk is trying to create robots that can do things that, in order to get rid of humans out of the workforce, You know, even in my own industry of film and television, they don't want to deal with actors. They don't want to deal with other working people, writers, all this kind of stuff. They don't want to deal with that. So they're incorporating AI and robotics in a way to get people out of the workforce. WorryFree has created this workhorse human hybrid, and WorryFree wants to sell these workhorse slaves to other companies. All of this in order to make WorryFree the most profitable company in human history. Hearing all this, Cash really just tries to leave, but Steve threatens him with a gun and is like, no, you need to stay and watch the rest of this film. So the movie explains that how people can become this creature. It explains that you have to snort this medication. So Cash is freaking out at this information, and Steve assures him that he will not give him the transformation medicine without his permission because he's not evil, which for me was very reminiscent of Google's previous motto of "Don't be evil," a motto that they changed in 2015 to "Do the right thing." Steve tells Cash that the horse people are the future of labor, that they're bigger, they're stronger, and they hopefully gripe a lot less than human beings, and soon he's gonna have millions of them. But he does warn him that eventually they'll probably form their own society and culture, and that they may want to rebel at some point, and that he needs someone on the inside of the horse people community, someone that they trust, someone that they relate to, but that is secretly working as a double agent for WorryFree. And they want Cash to be that guy. They want him to be the horse Martin Luther King. So Cash looks at Steve and he asks, why me of all people did you decide to raise through these ranks? And Steve tells him that he wants someone who is hungry, someone who is thirsty and desperate, and someone that will shank their own best friend in the back to get what they want. And he calls out Cash's morals here because he did stab his own girlfriend in the back. He did stab his coworkers in the back. And Steve is like, I need someone like you, a cunning raccoon like you, to work with me. So Steve offers Cassius $100 million for a 5-year undercover contract. Tells him that supposedly after taking the horse people serum that he will be able to get like a cure that reverses it back, that puts him back to being just a human. $100 million. That is definitely the kind of money that makes someone abandon their morals. And so Steve gives him this contract, and it's handwritten on a piece of scrap paper. Like, they don't even respect him enough to give him a real contract. And then the final nail in the coffin is Steve reminding Cash that he will have a horse dong. It's not enough that I'm going to give you $100 million, but think about it. You're going to have a dong the size of a horse, which to me was a call to the hyper actualization of black men and people like Steve thinking, of course you want this. You're going to have a huge because that's all you're good for, right? That's all that matters to you, right? So later on, Cash is in the doctor's office and he's reading a magazine that is like the National Enquirer, right? That supposedly posts fake stories. Sometimes them stories be real, right? The magazine is alleging that horse people are stealing jobs from slaves. So it's not enough that you were a slave, right? But you could actually lose your job as a slave to a horse person, right? Too crazy to be true, right? And this actually reminds me of how conservatives, the Republican Party, love to allege that immigrants are stealing jobs from American wage slaves. It's literally the same thing. You're saying that horse people are stealing jobs from slaves, and now you're saying that immigrants who are working slave jobs are stealing jobs from us other wage slaves, and they're stealing the jobs from us Americans that could be making that $13 an hour. God damn. He thought that Steve had given him the horse person serum. So he goes and visits Detroit. She says that it hasn't gotten bigger. During this meeting, Detroit shows Cash a text that she received from him from the night before. And it just so happens to be a video of one of the horse people screaming about how they're hurting and they want help. And then there's a clip of Steve threatening to turn the horse people into glue. So later that evening, ultra horny manic pixie dream girl Detroit hops off of Cash's you know what, and she tells him that listen, no more worry free or they are truly seriously done. So based off of the video that Detroit received from Cash, she's like, okay, we can use this to try and expose what WorryFree and Regal View is actually doing. And so Cash ends up calling that show I Got the Shit Kicked Out of Me, the same one that we talked about earlier that had hundreds of millions of people tuning in to watch people get the shit kicked out of them, literally. And so Cash ends up, after he gets the shit kicked out of him and then literally gets poop poured on him, he is able to play the clip of the horses asking for help, and then begins a montage of Cash appearing on various late night television news programs talking about everything that WorryFree is doing, and he's trying to basically end the conglomerate. And unfortunately, in true American fashion, true capitalist American fashion, it has the absolute opposite effect, and WorryFree stock prices soar, calling it a scientific breakthrough, innovative, and that it's going to save all these companies so much money. Later on, Cash walks upon a religious demonstration that postures Steve Lift as a man of God who is there to save people. Steve Lift is Jesus. I mean, you can't make this shit up. Like, this literally is what is happening in this country, okay? What other rich billionaire robber baron type people can you think of that Americans have brainwashed themselves to see as a godlike figure? It's enough to make you puke, really. But it's just like, this shit is literally so accurate to how America functions and how Americans will react in these moments. So finally, Cash meets with his friends Salvador and Squeeze, and he apologizes to them and admits to his betrayal. They both accept his apology, and Squeeze explains how people know that elected officials won't do anything about our problems. So a lot of people have become so fatigued that they just get used to it, which we can see that what is happening right now at the time of me making this video. People are just so tired. They don't know what to fight because there's just so many things. So the three of them sitting down at the diner plan for a big demonstration. Another Regal View protest and strike ensues, and once again the police are violently assaulting protesters so that Mr. can cross the picket line. You know, suddenly a big van of SWAT-like police pull up and just beat the crap out of people. So Cash, Salvador, and Squeeze escape the riot when Cash is knocked out and kidnapped. In this situation, he is a major leader, and they need to capture this leader in order to try and make everyone else submit. So the police beat the protesters, you know, even running them over with a car, killing many people. So Cash is in the van looking out at all the chaos happening, when suddenly Cash sees that the horse people have gotten out and they are fighting against the police and helping people. And so eventually they break into the van and they save Cash. And they let him know that they are now referring to themselves as Equisapiens, and they thank Cash for his help. Eventually they run off. Again, out of nowhere, ultra horny Detroit jumps up and she kisses Cash, and she's super turned on by his activism, and she calls him a mastermind, and they are back together, and Squeeze is in the corner looking like, because he's the real leader, right? And like, don't get me wrong, there's probably women that do this. She jumped to him because she thought he was leader, and then, oh, he's the real leader? Okay, now she jumped back to him. Okay, probably does happen. So after this happens, things settle down. You know, we're over the climax, the crazy shit of the film. Cash is at his uncle's house, and so Cash decides to give Salvador his Maserati. And he does have his own car now, but it's a modest car. He talks about how he is going to be working back at Regal View again, you know, as a telemarketer in their newly formed union. So afterward, Detroit pulls up to the house, and Cash opens his uncle's garage, and it reveals that he did keep some of the nice things from his rich life, and he has improved the garage for them to live in. Him and Detroit go inside, basically able to start their new life again. Cash closes the door, and as he closes the door, he falls down in pain. Something's going on, and when he stands up, his nose is this big. and it's revealed that he's turning into an Equisapien. This is the end of the movie, and the credits start to roll, but as the credits are rolling, it's showing us the movie continuing on. On the other side of town, Steve Lift is at home, and he gets a call from his ring box. As he looks in the ring box, it turns out that it's Cash, full Equisapien form. Him and other Equisapiens have run up on Steve at his house, okay? And then the front door bursts open and Cash steps in and he's looking around. Let me tell you, we know that Steve is about to get toe up, okay? He's about to get curb stomped. He's about to get kicked. Horse kicked, okay? I love this ending because it's a reminder that the powers that be, the techno-feudalist oligarchs like Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and their ilk, are not untouchable. These men who sit atop their corporate thrones believe they've ascended to a level of power where they're beyond reproach. They envision a world where America is transformed into a modern-day feudal society with corporate CEOs as the new lords and the rest of us as their subjects, bound to their whims. They preach a gospel of social Darwinism, convinced that they are the fittest who have rightfully survived and thrived. Well, what they fail to realize is that survival of the fittest is a two-way street. As I mentioned in my Nation in Crisis, now called America in Crisis video, where I discussed Leave the World Behind, there's a stark contrast between men like Danny, the military veteran and builder who possessed real-world survival skills, and Clay, the college professor from NYC living in Park Slope. The Silicon Valley Mafia, Trump, and his ilk all have soft hands, okay? They didn't claw their way to the top through physical labor, ingenuity, or even combat. No, they climbed corporate ladders, were placed in positions of power, or they bought their way in. They managed the people who actually build, create, and innovate, all while reaping the rewards and consolidating their power. The ending of Sorry to Bother You is a powerful reminder that these men can, in fact, be touched. The film's climax, where Cassius and the Equisapiens rise up against WorryFree, is a metaphor for the collective power of the oppressed. It's a call to action, a rallying cry for those who have been exploited, dehumanized, and pushed to the margins. Boots Riley doesn't just critique the system. He shows us that resistance is possible, that the seemingly invincible can be brought down when people unite and fight back. I wish more young men in this country realized the power they hold. I think too many are sitting back, allowing soft-handed billionaires like Elon Musk to exploit them into a life of poverty. They don't have to accept a life of being no Vaselined by the oligarchs into a future where they have no wife, no kids, no family, no house, no car, nothing. The oligarchs are not gods. They're not even particularly strong or resilient. They're just men who have rigged the system in their favor. But systems can be dismantled and power can be redistributed. Like the employees of Regalview and the Equisapiens who have dismantled WorryFree, we have the power to push back, to demand better, to build something for ourselves and our community. The ending of Sorry to Bother You is a reminder that the system only works if we allow it to. And when we stop playing by their rules, everything will change. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope that you love this little slight throwback. I know that it was 7 years ago, so it's not like a super far throwback, but I hope you guys can see what I'm talking about looking back on this movie. When I saw this movie in theaters, I absolutely loved it, and it's kind of sad but interesting how the themes and the quotes and just everything about this movie is still relevant to today compared to the 15 to 20 years ago when it was conceived and written. Anyway, guys, please leave a comment, like, and share this video with your movie loving friends. Let me know what you think about it, the things that I've said, the breakdowns, and how you feel that it relates to what this country is going through today in 2025. I'll catch up with you guys in the next one. Peace. All the Equisapiens out there.